Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. Search Sessions is a bi-weekly show we're hosting during the COVID-19 pandemic to help businesses and our community best position themselves for success during and after the crisis. We host this every other Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain and bring on industry experts and thought leaders to provide business advice and guidance during these times. Every week, our brilliant SEO leaders at Boostability also provide weekly SEO advice and tips for how you can optimize your SEO. This week, we have a show packed with valuable advice and information on how to thrive in a COVID-19 new era of business. We'll be exploring the consumer psychology shift that happened and how to adapt your business to succeed in these new times with new customer expectations. We have Ryan Cantor, VP of Product and Marketing from Thrive here today. Ryan has led the product and marketing teams for Thrive business since 2016. His day-to-day is reviewing user feedback, implementing and monitoring the product roadmap and its delivery to keep Thrive constantly growing, adapting, and improving. Additionally, he oversees the external marketing and advertising of Thrive out to targeted small business customers. Ryan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you here. And I'm Amanda Price, VP of Marketing here at Boostability and your host. So let's jump in. Boostability is the global leader in small business and partner-focused white label SEO. We offer affordable SEO specifically designed to meet the needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Our proprietary technology Launchpad tracks over 2.3 million keyword rankings per month, which enables us to make SEO decisions based on millions of bits of information. Not only that, but we serve customers and partners all around the world. We're in 15 countries, 9 languages, and are quickly expanding. We get 86% of our customers on the first page of Google within 6 months and got over 69,000 keywords on page 1 of Google in 2019 alone. Boostability is dedicated to helping small businesses succeed online. And we're thrilled to have Thrive here today. Thrive is an end-to-end, all-in-one customer experience platform for small businesses. Unlike many software competitors, Thrive helps businesses automate processes from the initial customer touchpoint of their online presence all the way through to loyalty programs that help companies generate repeat business. Thrive is focused on helping small businesses get the job, manage the job, and get credit. With over 55,000 subscribers, Thrive has grown to be one of the fastest all-in-one platforms built for small business. This is all backed up with 24/7 unlimited customer support and was recently top ranked by G2 Crowd in spring 2020. Ryan Cantor, Thrive's VP of Product and Marketing, has been studying the market and has prepared an incredible show for you today about what you need to know in order to do business in this new COVID-19 era. So let's get started and we'll take a look at today's agenda. In today's agenda, we'll explore what you need to know about the COVID-19 new era of business. And we're going to ask the question, will business ever return to the way it used to be? Then we're going to dive into the COVID-19 consumer psychology shift and look at the prolonged impact to small business. Then we're going to go into how you as a business owner or you managing businesses need to adapt and think about adapting your business to succeed in this new world order. And we're going to look at the role that technology plays and how you can use it to your advantage. After that, we're going to dive into our actionable SEO strategies and then into a Q&A. And then don't forget to tune in next week. We're going to have Jeff Tomlin, CMO of Vendasta, here to talk about how you can protect local, evolving your business for today and tomorrow. Vendasta will present their data findings on how the digital landscape is changing for local businesses worldwide and what you need to know about it. All right, let's jump in. And Ryan, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. We're going to be exploring first, will business ever return to the way it used to be?
Thanks, Amanda. Listen, it's a complex question, and I'm going to try to make this entire section here not feel so doom and gloom, but it has been almost exactly 2 months. March 13th, 2020 is the day the national emergency was declared. So it's been exactly 60 days. And in that time period, 33.5 million people have filed for unemployment. And it's important to understand that as we look at what's going on around us right now, as humans, we embrace patterns, right? Our comfort is the status quo. I think TLC said it best, that we generally try to stick to the rivers and the lakes that we are used to. And as a society, we resist change. Just as a humankind, we like to kind of go with what is comfortable to us. And so if you go to the next slide, the question we have to ask ourselves is, but what happens once change is forced upon you? And I'm going to start with a little example for us on the call at maybe a corporate level, right? When you think about remote workforces, this is not something that's new, right? Remote workforces have been around. Many companies have gone entirely remote, such as Envision or GitLabs or even Zapier have been 100% virtual since their existence. And there's been many, many studies about the benefits of that or not the benefits of that, and people are trying to learn and adapt. But yet, historically, Boostability, Thrive, both of us, we have corporate offices, we pay corporate leases, we invest in amenities and other things for our employees in the office space, and we've traditionally, stuck to our roots of having people kind of commute every day on the road, come to an office, get into a meeting room and collaborate together, because that's where our comfort lied. And there was always, despite the fact that this research kind of existed, a tendency to say, well, but that's not right for my company. That may work for so-and-so's company. But now we're forced there. And when you think about that, we've now been forced to work virtually for 2 months. And I think you're seeing a trend already develop at the corporate level where people who have been resistant to that are suddenly realizing, hey, it's not so bad. Productivity actually isn't going down. That despite, maybe employees being forced to stay at home, which is really the toll, that once the kind of economy opens up a little bit and people can get out and engage in their life, that actually some happier benefits are coming out to this. And recently, Bank of Montreal announced just last week that out of their 36,000 employee base, that 80%, they estimate 80% now are going to adopt some sort of flexible work environment, right? Whether it be work from home or going back to the offices, which is going to dramatically reduce their corporate footprint.
Wow.
And so when you think about the kind of change at the corporate level, right, it's being forced upon these, and companies are finding unforeseen benefits by doing this. So let's go to the next slide and talk. That's at a corporate level, but the truth is we're seeing the exact same thing happen on the consumer level. And it's important to know that when we look at this slide, most of the trends we're seeing are not new, right? We're seeing just a rapid adoption of things that were already kind of starting to bubble up or at some point in their evolution. So delivery services. I'm not saying that Instacart or same-day delivery for Amazon is new. They've been around for a little while, but we are seeing a lot more consumers adopt those particular technologies that maybe had never used Instacart, and a lot more businesses sign up for those types of services. We're seeing Subway sign up for Grubhub and DoorDash when they never did that. McDonald's signing up for some of these services because they know that they need to be able to do delivery. Telehealth is a great example. Telehealth has been out for a while, and yet as consumers, we would look at telehealth and think to ourselves that somehow the care or the diagnosis is just not going to be as good if it was done virtually, that I would prefer to go to a doctor in person. And right now, for many, that's an impossibility, and you're forced to utilize the technology. You're forced to engage in a telehealth appointment. And what a lot of consumers are finding is that the benefit, the comfort, the convenience, and the quality is much higher than they expected, and it's something that they're probably going to continue moving forward.
And
virtual workouts.
Ryan, if you're a small doctor's office or something in a local community and you've never done anything like that, does that mean that you need to start doing that to kind of survive in the new?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. The consumers are going to this marketplace, and if you don't provide that service, other people are going to fill that need. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but to your point, these are trends that were emerging, and if you felt like I didn't have to because people could transact with you in person, this is an area where you're going to have to really focus and figure out how do you work in a world where it may not return to normal, because once people have been forced or consumers have gotten forced to adapt some of these technologies, a lot of them aren't going to go back. I mean, when you look at even virtual workouts, and it's virtual workouts I really enjoy, because if you think about where they started, Jane Fonda and her VHS tapes in the 80s are kind of, a pretty popular momentum where people would watch them and do that. But why did we see a surge in recent years in yoga studios and fitness classes and hot yoga and all these things? because people wanted the real-time, personalized expert kind of looking at them and giving them, kind of feedback as they were going, and they wanted to be a sense of community. And now the technology has evolved where you get kind of the benefits of the both worlds, right? You get the convenience of doing it at home. I don't have to go drive. If I've never done it before, I don't have to feel embarrassed by other, kind of people staring at me. But I also feel safe when I'm doing it, right? I can do it virtually, I can do it remotely, and we've seen a number of our clients in the fitness space start to adopt virtual kind of Zoom-based workouts and physical training. And the last one, for those people.
Sorry, I was actually thinking, so I am a member of a gym here in Utah, and when I eventually go back, what I'm going to expect now as a gym goer is the ability to, if I want to go into the gym on like Tuesday and Thursday, great, but let's say on Wednesday I'm not feeling good, but I still want to work out at home. I'm going to expect that gym to also give me a virtual workout now. So not only will I go, into the gym and expect them to have like all their cleanliness procedures together for a COVID-19 era, but I also am gonna now expect them to continue having virtual workouts, even when people return back to the brick and mortar.
Absolutely, and your point is extremely valid, and that is you're a hybrid. You want both, right? You may want to go back some days and right. work, but the point is it needs to be in their bag. It needs to be in their repertoire that they're able to accomplish this. And you and I talked a little bit briefly yesterday about this, but in that particular case, if you're a gym or you're a studio and you have a physical layout or a physical footprint, right, you're talking about revenue per square foot. If you can only be at 50% capacity and everyone needs to be 6 feet away, the capacity of your classes is going to go down. You're not going to be able to fit as many people on an in-person basis as you used to do. And so adopting a hybrid strategy that says, okay, at some point we'll all feel comfortable, in some capacity having in-person classes, but what if you could have 30% of the people attend remotely and still generate a significant revenue stream and continue to operate your business? And there are going to be consumers who don't want to go back, right? If we're true about this, there is no vaccine. There's not an awful lot that has changed between now and March 13th. Right now we know we're wearing masks. We know the temperature's gone up a little bit. But from a health or diagnosis perspective, there's not a lot that has changed since March 13th. And so suddenly rushing back and thinking that everything is going to kind of return to normal seems to be, you're going to be waiting an awful long time.
Right.
And the last thing I'll mention,
consumer experience has changed, where we're hesitant, we're scared. And like Peloton, I have a Peloton, they have 7,000 people attend one class now, because everything's virtual. So there's opportunity there for businesses.
Absolutely. And as the economy has even started to open up and I ventured out and we've gone to businesses, the number of places that are actually saying no cash is actually, I wouldn't have thought about it until I saw the signs, but, cash isn't the cleanest form of currency around even before the pandemic. And so exchanging that obviously probably doesn't sound like a good idea either. And you'll see continued adoption of, near field communications, Apple Pay, Google Wallet, the credit cards. So even, inserting it into a machine and swiping it is starting to be, kind of blasé. Entering your PIN number, starting to be, I don't want to touch that device. How many other people have touched that device? So this kind of move towards what I'm calling safe commerce, it's very real. And the things that we're being forced to adapt, many of them are going to demonstrate that they're conveniences that are going to be here a long time. So if you're a small business and you haven't taken steps, if you've done like a wait and see attitude, hoping that it returns to normal, it's not going to return to normal. It's not going to go back, to the good old days of February, as we like to call them. So if you want to head up to the next slide. And this is just a visual representation. What I'm proclaiming here is that I believe we are witnessing the fastest change in consumer psychology ever recorded in mankind, right? And I'm just using a couple of different examples. There's plenty of other ones I'm sure you could find. But if you think about like credit card adoption, the first credit card with a mag stripe was invented in kind of 1959. And it took 10 years to even see any kind of real movement or adoption, right? You had to get it in the hands of consumers. You had to have merchants having some idea of what to do with it when someone brought it in. There was a whole process. How do I actually get paid? And there's been a constant evolution of that technology as you've gone forward. Look at smartphones, right? In 1999, the BlackBerry came out, and it was largely for corporate users, right? The kind of upper echelon of people who could afford it and were texting. But it didn't hit mainstream, right, until 2008 when the iPhone was launched for consumers. And at that point, mobile websites did not exist, right? The App Store did not exist for 2 more years past that. The ability to transact and buy things through your smartphone didn't exist in 2008. So it took a number of years even to adapt that particular technology, right? Google, founded in 1998, took about 4 years to even start to get any kind of rhythm and adoption, and now today it's a verb. And when we look at what I'm calling safe commerce, it's this adoption of all the things we just talked about on the previous slide: behaviors, abilities, how consumers want to transact and interact with businesses. We saw that evolution and adoption happen in 14 days. And it became very, very apparent. I think anyone on this call would know that if you had a choice right now to conduct business with a business that was doing it safely or not safely, which one would you choose, right? They would be disqualified because they're not proving to you that they conduct business in a way that's safe for you, given the current climate. And so this is a very real thing. And the quick adoption is what I'm getting back to. It was forced upon us. If you allow things to kind of naturally happen on a normal technology adoption curve, you know, you have haves and you have have-nots, and people who choose to use it and people don't, and it gets more convenient and the technology evolves, and it's that process that goes on. This was forced. And because it was forced, you're thrusting people into technology that was readily available, but they had chosen to adopt traditionally in a slower curve. So it's accelerating at unprecedented speeds. And if we go to the next slide here, this is just an interesting kind of mindset. How many small businesses, even though they've adopted safe consumer practices, I mean, how many restaurants now are offering curbside pickup that never did it? And how many, places have you been to that have put up plexi shields and they're taking, the necessary precautions? But it can be as trivial as this. When you are getting found online, you used to only be getting evaluated on what are the goods you have, are you high quality, what's your pricing, what's your brand? What's the imagery telling people? Are you showing people shaking hands on your website right now? Are you showing people, 12 inches apart? I mean, us at Thrive, we had a nationally televised commercial that we started running just a couple of years ago. We spent a lot of money in production. We ran it. It was a tremendous success. It showed people high-fiving each other, and it showed people 6 inches apart. We can't use that footage right now. It would be a monumental mismatch in the marketplace. It would not send the right message, to our consumers. And so when you look at your website, your online presence, your materials, are you saying one thing but showing another, right? People do browsing with their eyes, and is your imagery, have you adapted to show things in a responsible manner? Because as people find your business online, they want to know that you're open, but they more importantly want to know that you have adapted and that you have figured out a way to keep them safe, and that this is going to be kind of an easy, frictionless way to transact with you that doesn't violate their comfort and the time. So that's just a small example, but it's going to matter as we move forward.
I love this example. I think it's so powerful. When we were talking about this yesterday, I had this aha moment. And this is something that businesses can do right now, because I guarantee you that 99.9% of people have not gone back and optimized and updated the pictures on their website and gone in and tweaked some of this stuff. And, a lot of people have done that on their business listings saying we're open, we're doing curbside, but have you gone through and looked at what is the imagery you're putting out on social media? What is the imagery you're putting out on your website all across the internet, and make sure that that's updated? Because this consumer psychology shift that you've talked about, where people have these new expectations of, they're deciding if they want to go spend money with the business based off of if they feel safe commerce, like you mentioned. And you have that chance to convert that customer right away on your initial touch points, but you need to look across the board at everywhere they're seeing you online and make sure that these things are updated. I thought this is so brilliant. I actually haven't heard anyone else talk about this. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Let's go to the next slide, because I think, I know some of these talks historically have been tons and tons of slides and data, and, I have to put some data in here so I'm not just making stuff up as I go along. In April, we worked with the Small Business Development Center of America, and we conducted an analysis of small business. We did 2 waves of this survey because it was important to ask the question, and then as it evolved, more information became aware, and maybe some of the optimism that, in a couple of weeks this will pass was kind of wearing off. And we asked a very simple question, and that is, what % recovered do you think your business is going to be a year from now? And I'm showing you on the screen kind of the differences between the first and second study, but important to know that overwhelmingly over 75% of the businesses do not think they'll be back to full recovery even a year from now. So that tells you, Houston, we have a problem. We have to kind of jump into gear and we have to do something. Very sadly, you're seeing that in the second wave now, growing since then, over 10% of small businesses actually don't think that we surveyed don't think they'll make it. And so, this is an opportunity as we look at this. When this happened, there's many things that we don't control, right? We don't control the spread of this pandemic. We don't control the government's response. We don't control how quickly they give assistance, evidently. That's not something we control either. And when you look at all of the things that we don't control, what a small business owner can control is how they respond. How do they re-examine their business model? How do they re-examine their customer experience, their touch points, their website? And unfortunately, what is something that they may have spent the last number of years morphing, right? Business models evolve, your website presence is ever changing. You have a very short period of time to hunker down and really rethink how your business for the long term is going to adapt. And here's what I'll tell you. My observation is that a lot of small businesses started this process, but they've adopted what I call Band-Aids, right? They put duct tape on it. They're expensive, not scalable. They've sacrificed margin for having any kind of business at all, which is totally understandable. So now the question is, how do you take those things and institutionalize them? How do you make them part of your permanent go-forward strategy? In a way, do you have to adjust your pricing? Do you have to adjust your staffing? Do you have to adjust your hours of operation? Do you have to adjust? What do you have to adjust to kind of say that this is our new normal, and I'm going to be able to run my business successfully every month going forward, just like this, day in and day out. So I think that's the biggest takeaway here on the slide. And listen, I'll give you a slight plug. At Thrive, this is what we do, right? We manage the client experience end to end. We've been growing our platform for 5 years, and we've added functionality, and people say, well, why is this functionality included and not this functionality included? And it's because we focus with a very disciplined approach that it's an end-to-end customer experience platform. And unlike our competitors, again, from the first time they find you online. So I'm giving you some examples of imagery, but the question is, most businesses are sleeping 70% of the week. They're closed. They're not able to answer their phone. And yet we find still a lot of small businesses rely on call me, call this number. Okay, but what happens during those off hours? How are you transacting? How are you getting leads? We've found before this, some of the objections we get from small businesses is I don't want to accept online appointments. I don't want to give consumers control over my schedule. And I get all of that. But here's the reality. If we're true about it, we know that a lot of small businesses got into business for themselves because they wanted to set their own rules. They wanted to be their own boss. They wanted to define the level of service they give. And that's what they want to do. It's their business. And that's totally admirable, and I totally get it. But you can't ignore the market. And if you don't provide certain levels of efficiencies or ease of use, your competitors will. And right now, market share is up in the air. And that's both a good and a bad thing. Your customers who maybe have been loyal to you for a number of years, if you don't come out of this finding an easier way to transact and safe way to transact with them, they're going to abandon you and go to a competitor. Likewise, vice versa, the same thing applies. Their customers are ready for you to go get them as well. So this is a complete open market right now for you to go out and get that. And so what I'm going to advocate here is if you look at everything, every customer touch point. So when we look at the Thrive platform, we look at research. People will look at you on social. Are you active? Is a conversation? Do you respond to people, or do you just post and kind of hope that people consume your information? Websites, again, not that you have one, but mobile, fast. We have to go beyond that. Is it easy to engage? Is it easy to submit information? Is it easy to transact? Can I log in? Can I make payments? What information? Is it constantly updated with all the changes of hours and information and safe environments and photos that we talk about? Ratings and reviews. Now we know Google suspended their reviews, right? But as you're getting testimonials and reviews, it's going to be important for you to go get one right now for a customer that you helped this week or last week in a safe way, and get them to tell you that you helped them in a safe way, so that you have the social proof that you're going to need for future customers that you can help them in a safe and an effortless way. Are you a business that was writing down estimates in person? You're not going to be able to do that anymore. And I don't think slipping it under the door is probably a good solution either. So how do you send electronic estimates that people can approve effortlessly? And while we all want our estimates to be approved on the first round, probably unlikely, right? I give you an estimate, you negotiate, you come back. Can they text you? And listen, before you say, I have a cell phone and people can text me, how many employees do you have? Do they all have access to your cell phone, right? How do you enable your business to run at a scalable level and have, easy and effortless communication back and forth? And we have talked about online appointments. You don't have to let them book the job, but let them book a time slot to talk to you, to get that consultation, to get that estimate. Avoid the back and forth, right? Avoid the, are you available? Are you not available? I want information. When can we do this? Just let them book. Sync your calendar, be available, and move forward. So that's not just getting found, but that's getting the job, getting chosen, right? Because you're easy. Because if you can't do these things, I guarantee you, there are people who are leaving your website right now and going to someone else in your industry, in your city, who do and who will. When you organize your business, again, this is going to be incredibly valuable as we move forward, as business models are turned on their heads. Restaurants, again, already slim margin businesses. How do you do it with 50% capacity? Do you have to extend hours? Do you have to open on days where you were closed previously? If you were a medical office and you can only allow one patient in at a time, how does that optimize your schedule? It's going to be more important than ever that you optimize your schedule for minimizing break times between people, set up times, so you can kind of get the most revenue out of your day and hours and labor as you possibly can. So managing your staff, organizing.
That's so interesting. I hadn't thought about that either, that, if you can only have 50% of your customers in at a time, then yeah, if you are traditionally a dinner restaurant, or a doctor's office that only operates until 3, then you're going to probably need to completely restructure your day so that you're open for more hours, so you can get more people in, and then have staff rotating in different shift times so that you can get bigger coverage. So businesses, you're right, are going to have to change potentially business models of opening on new days, staying open longer, and making it a safe environment so people trust you and want to do business with you. That's interesting.
It is. I mean, and think about that. I mean, it can go as basic as a bowling alley. I mean, a bowling alley, think how much they pay in lease and rent and space. You think you're going to stack people in alley next to alley, X to alley? No, you're probably going to do every other lane now.
Wow, yeah.
And are you going to be able to walk up and grab your own bowling ball? Probably not. Now that needs to be moved behind and sanitized, and you're probably going to have to ask for a bowling ball like you ask for shoes, right? So it's going to take those kinds of adjustments as you think about all of those things and how you can still operate in a profitable way, in a go forward manner. Again, invoicing. I can't say that one of the most inspiring things, at least at Thrive, that we've been really excited about is through this entire thing, that the platform helps people keep cash flow coming in, right? That you can get paid electronically, that why don't you pay me before you order, or pay me as services are coming in, or let me get a deposit. And again, make that effortless. Request payments. I mean, again, adopting that technology. And it's interesting. We talk to small businesses all the time about using our payment processing and using our payment system. And, well, I don't want to pay the 3% credit card fee. Well, maybe we have to figure out a way to adapt to kind of increase our prices or adjust a little bit to pay that 3%, because the mailing the check and the cash really isn't so much of an option anymore, right? So again, these things are going to be forced upon businesses who may have been resistant to change or adopting those historically because they didn't have to in a booming economy. We're going to have to hunker down now and take these things seriously. And so organizing, paying, thank you. Again, the human element of this is really the other thing that strikes me. I think businesses who are using a human touch, I think how many in March did we all kind of laugh? I think we saw a lot of, Facebook jokes about, I'm really, really happy that, the HVAC company that I used 7 years ago is with me during all these trying times. I mean, we saw a lot of these, default kind of corporate-y, spray and pray kind of communications coming from anyone we've ever transacted with ever, letting us know how safe they are and how their employees are doing. And I think, listen, maybe that was just a sign of the times. What we're seeing now is a change towards personal communication, one-on-one, humanism, to really humanize the entire experience for people and let them know. And so after, you get a job in this day and age, cherish it, celebrate them, do shout outs on social media, link to the photos, publish, invite people into that conversation. We're all virtual, right? And social media is a great way to kind of grow that business grace, grow that community about what you're doing that will pay you future dividends. If you're going to send text and email campaigns, that's great, but you should personalize them. You should be triggered. I mean, the days of loading a 5,000 customer list, pressing the send button are largely over. And if they aren't for you, they should be. When's the right time to send the right message? Is it and there's different messages along the journey. So you should be using a platform and a technology that is aware of all that. And when you think about that in and of itself is probably the largest challenge we've seen facing small businesses. This idea of a customer list is not new. What we have found is that most businesses have many customer lists, right? There is no single source of truth, right? At some point in this journey, many of the small businesses that we see are out there have adopted a piece of technology to do one or two things, right? I needed to accept credit cards, so I signed up for Square, or I needed to send email marketing messages, so I signed up for MailChimp. Great. Those are two lists in two different platforms. And every time I want to send an email, what do I got to do? I got to go export my new customers out of Square, and I got to go import them over here. And what we found, who has the time to do that? No one's going to do that. So you're not sending the email cadences the way they should be. So again, as you're looking for a technical solution, whether it's Thrive or one of our competitors, right, you should be asking yourself these questions. How are you going to use it? How is it going to make your life easier? Is it going to centralize my information? Is it going to simplify? So that you can send these messages at the right time. So in this particular model that we've developed, we're aware when the job is done. We're aware once they've paid you, so we can send out the right emails at the right time. We're aware that they haven't interacted with your business in 3 or 5 months, and so let's invite them back with an offer or an invitation to follow you on social media. So it's connecting all those dots for you. And again, it goes full circle. A lot of times, I think small businesses are still thinking this is kind of a funnel where I do some advertising, I do SEO, I advertise, I have a website, people come in, I transact with them, yay, maybe I get a review, and then on to the next one. You need to find a way to get repeat business from these people, right? If I installed an HVAC system, where's my maintenance plan? Where's my tune-up plan? When do I reach out a year from now? Can I help them in other ways? Do they spread the wealth onto their neighbors? I'm in your neighborhood. This is kind of a referral-based model now. How do you do these things? How do you adapt? And so, again, it's more important, what small businesses do today is just take a minute, but sit down on a piece of paper if you have to and start thinking about all of these touch points from beginning to end and how your business either is doing them well or not doing them well. And what's your plan? Again, whether it's Thrive or not, have a plan, right? What am I going to do to improve these things? Because I guarantee you the market is there for you to grow your business, expedite your recovery if you have a plan and you start aggressively pursuing it. So I think that's, yep, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's so impressive that, so a small business can sign up with Thrive and then they can do all of these things on your platform.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and again, there are bespoke, and we have competitors. I mean, I want to make sure that people are understanding that, we are one option. I think obviously I'm biased. I have the logo behind me. We think we're the best, but my message to small businesses is very clear. You have to do something, right? Yeah. Adopting technology is not an option anymore. So, but before you get in a permanent relationship with someone who's going to be a vital part of your business, do your research. Are they the right solution? And get a demo. Talk to people about them. Have your list of questions. As you're doing this mapping of your customer journey, do that before you talk to anybody. So you kind of know where are your gaps. What do you want to achieve? What will this do this? And then challenge any company that you're going to do business with. Can you do this? How would you do this? Show me how you would do this, right? Prove to me that this is going to work for my business. And the last thing I'll say, and there's been a flood of SaaS companies and providers. Listen, this is an area where you generally do get what you pay for, right? If you're looking for a $9 solution, you're going to get a $9 solution. And I think if you're looking for something that's really professional and robust and really treats your customers the way they should be treated, don't be afraid to make a nominal investment that'll pay yourself in ample dividends on the other side. So that's just, again, tips there as you look at things and evaluate us or other providers. But more importantly, sit down. Think about your plan. What are you doing that's a stop, get, measure? And what I could say most importantly, if you're a small business owner who has taken the wait and hope method, that this is some sort of period that will pass, and if I just wait for the economy to open, everything will go back, it's going to be very painful for you. It's going to be extremely painful. You might get a little surge here as the economy starts to reopen, but I'm telling you, you will never get back to 100% anyway. So use this as a time to figure out how you're going to adapt and how you're going to adjust your business moving forward.
Yeah. And I love kind of like the theme of this talk about, as a business owner or someone who's managing other businesses, number one, you have to think about safe commerce. And how do you build that trust with the customers? Because as Ryan said, the market share is now open. Someone who was loyal to you before might not be loyal to you anymore if you're not doing safe commerce. And then connecting that with technology so that you have all the right technology touch points to communicate with your customer real-time marketing is something that we talk about all the time in the marketing world, but it's about delivering the right message at the right time. And that's so critical. And the way you do that is with good technology, but you got to have the right message and the right like thought process so that you deliver that through the technology to connect it at the right time. So I think that's super powerful as a, you know, anyone who's trying to do business in this new era is you got to think about what the consumer needs now, which is different, right? And then you need to build that trust that you have safe commerce, and then you need to use the right technology to connect with them at the right time. I love it. And I think on the next slide, we have some really fantastic resources. Ryan, can you tell us about these?
Yeah, obviously. So, you know, like many companies, right, we developed a COVID-19 resource center, and the majority of our resource center, though, is actually us sharing success stories from other clients in similar industries, right? They're not just us sitting in a box somewhere coming up with ideas about how to use our technology. I mean, while that I'm sure would be entertaining, we really are saying, you know, here's what this yoga studio is doing. Here's what this HVAC company is doing. Here's what this dog grooming company is doing. How are they transacting in a safe way? And so even just using that as an inspiration, if you're struggling to figure out how I kind of get business rolling again, I would encourage people to check out that resource center. Likewise, our blog. You know, we obviously have a blog, but we were very aggressively posting anything, and not just Thrive. I mean, this is not a self-fulfilling blog. As we find programs or great articles from other providers about how to navigate some of the government programs or financing available, grants that may be available, as well as, you know, just general tips and tricks and best practices, how to reopen in a safe way, how to communicate that it's time to reopen to your customers if you're reopening for the first time. Just again, guides, tips, checklists, things that can just help a small business so they don't feel like they're kind of in it alone. And again, we have a community on Facebook like most companies, but it's a great place that you can actually ask questions. We have a live set of humans who are actually responding to people when they ask questions about our content or about our posts. And we engage in both online and offline conversations, whether you're a customer or not, just to help you kind of navigate this, you know, this kind of crazy time. We're here for small businesses, and our entire company is built, you know, to support small businesses. And so we have a vested interest in ensuring their success long after this. And we're there as a trusted partner through the whole thing. So
love it. We are also going to be putting these resources on our site in our search session and COVID hub on our website. So we can link you direct there as well, or you can take a look at this and go straight there. So we're so grateful to have you on today, Ryan. Thank you so incredibly much. This is incredibly valuable, not only I'm sure for the people attending, but also for me. I got my brain really turning and thinking about things. So thank you. We are now going to jump into our actionable SEO strategies. We have Colton Miller, our Director of SEO, here today. Colton, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And Mike Marsh, our SEO Manager. Mike, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me as well.
Absolutely. And let's dive into our actionable SEO strategies.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll start off. Thanks again, Ryan. I loved all the things that we were talking about as consumer behavior. And so we wanted to kind of coincide with our SEO tactic, looking at the future, looking at what's going to be happening in long term. So what we've decided to go off of is 3 future-proof SEO tactics businesses should do right now. The first one that we came up with, we talked about before on search sessions. I want to kind of go into the why and a little bit of the how of why contactless ordering capability is so important for SEO, as well as all the things that we talked about before, where you need to have these kind of ability to interact with your organic traffic in such a way so as to utilize that organic traffic appropriately and to have that kind of that safe mentality. The things that we said were service scheduling and on-site purchasing. There are tons of different integrations that you can implement on your websites, where like Calendly or different things where you can integrate that and then have that accessibility on your website. And the reason why that's an SEO tactic is because you're adding those events, you're adding that dwell time, you're looking at KPIs that Google looks at or that different search engines will look at. And that can affect your organic traffic and your SEO rankings because you're adding these functionalities to your website. And so that's why it's an SEO tactic as well as an overall marketing tactic and a lead tactic. But adding those kinds of abilities to your site is a very, very important thing to do.
Yeah, and just to tack on with that, adding content around how and why, for example, if you've never offered delivery before, why are you offering it now? What are you doing differently now? Are you packaging things a little bit differently? I know at least for us in my household, we've ordered Chick-fil-A once or twice. Everything is super packaged, super bundled, right? You can tell nobody's messed with it. So those things are always, those are things that you need to start showing on your website, that you need to start talking about. And then there's other places like Google Booking, I believe is what it's called. But you can essentially create the functionality, integrate it with your website, but then people can just go to your Google My Business listing and they can book from there. So there's all sorts of different ways to add that integration. The other thing, and I've said this on one of our other search sessions here, but video is so powerful nowadays, and I don't think many businesses use it right. I'll give you one quick example, and we'll kind of fit it into some of the other bits here. But a video got some oil. I got my oil changed the other day on my car and then my wife's car, and I was actually astounded. She got a text. I didn't. Hers was the main phone number, but she got a text with 2 video files. One that went over her car, a technician going over, the brake pads, the tires, the battery, fluid levels, and then going over my car, the same thing, talking about things that, they can certainly service there, some things that they really wouldn't worry about right now, but just kind of overviewing the service. So they did the oil change, they did the rotation, but then they just went over, hey, I noticed this is something you'll probably want to look at. If you want to get that scheduled, talk to the service guy when you're checking out. I mean, from an oil place, quick lube type thing, that's fantastic, but that could apply to anybody. If you're offering HVAC, you can kind of do an overview of here's the job, here's what I did before, here it is after, here's how it's working. If you're doing pest control, you can certainly do that. And if you start taking those videos and even just covering your services or covering what you've done, now you can start integrating those into your service pages, into blogs when you're talking about things to diagnose or not diagnose, or maybe you'll see these 4 things and I can show you some actual examples of them. And then probably the bigger thing, at least for me and kind of the SEO side of things, is you can now start using that in FAQ sections. You can start answering those questions or those things that you're like, this really isn't a big deal, and here's why it's not a big deal. You can just append a question to that, like why, when should I worry about my brake rotors, or when should I worry about, the brake pads? Those are things that, common sense, you may not think of that as a business owner, but as you start recording that video and giving it to somebody, or even getting questions off of those videos that you're producing, you'd be surprised how quickly you could fill out a very robust and very intricate kind of FAQ that could then potentially get you, rank 0 opportunities with featured snippets and different things like that. So definitely a lot. Bar none, if you're not utilizing video for yourself, do them today. And if you want to know where to get started with video, before and after. Show what you're doing, show what you're working on, show how it's working after, cover anything else that you may have seen during your job or whatever it may have been, and give that to your customer. It doesn't even have to be anything big. Like in that scenario with the oil changes, I wasn't expecting it. They didn't say, hey, we're going to shoot you a video. They just said, ding, I got a text, and there it is. So there's all sorts of different ways that you could potentially integrate video. This is the one that I would highly recommend. If you're not doing it already, start here and see how it can grow for you.
Definitely. The last one that we have on here is keyword fluidity. What we want to talk about and what this point means is changing the mindset. So the future-proof SEO tactic, what we've seen in the past is a lot of businesses will focus on one keyword that will be their end-all be-all, or a set of keywords where that will be their end-all be-all. That's what's pulling their traffic. What we want to do is shift that mindset. Look at the keyword fluidity. Look at topical relevance. Instead of ranking for one specific keyword, try to rank for one specific topic where you're looking at that and you're not necessarily stuck on that volume or that one keyword, the end all be all keyword. And so if you do that, that's going to help you with your future-proof SEO tactics with all of these three things. And I think that coincides really greatly with the consumer behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if you are like a fish shop and people come to get tropical fish for their aquariums, typically you would just focus on the keywords, for people trying to find a tropical fish that they could come by. But what you could do during this time is leverage video and put out videos and put them up on your site that talk about like how to change the water in your fish tank, or here's tips on how to feed like this particular type of fish that people normally would ask you when they're in store buying that fish or buying that fish food.
Mm-hmm.
And those are new keywords that you could grab traffic on when people are searching for stuff like that. And if you offer that, they'll find you. If you don't, they'll find your competitor. And when, people start going back to brick and mortars, they might decide, hey, that fish shop was more valuable than the last one I went to, and then go to that new customer. And that kind of goes into the market share is kind of up for grabs, like what Ryan was talking about. And so you can use these SEO strategies to make sure during this time that you are doing everything you can to keep and maintain and also capture new market share. I like that keyword fluidity and how you can kind of like tie that into other strategies with video, and then that trust building with like contactless, commerce, which is really interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah. Great. Well, we are going to move into Q&A section. If you guys have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A section. I know we've already had a good amount come through, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Christine Pratt. She is our director of content and our producer of the show. And Christine, thank you for all you always do. And so please, if you want to take us through some of the questions for Ryan and for Colton and Mike, that would be great.
Yep, you got it. And you can drop it through the Q&A platform here on Zoom, or also through the webinar chat. I'm monitoring both of those. So the first one, this is I'm going to direct a few to Ryan to start. At the very beginning, you were talking about COVID messaging and imagery specifically. Like how, beyond just imagery and, saying, hey, we're open, or we have takeout, what are some of the ways that a business could say that they're safe, that they're taking precautions at this time to make sure that their customers are safe when they can come visit their business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And let me be clear. I mean, I'm not suggesting you should turn your corporate website or your business's website into something that looks, out of a sci-fi movie where you go there and everyone's wearing masks. I mean, there is a balance there. But I think, be literal. I mean, and don't just think about your headlines or a pop-up that says we're open. Look at every page of your website. If there's a website about fast, that you have a no hassle estimate process, you need to add a no hassle and safe estimate process, right? You need to make these small tweaks in kind of every part of that website, wherever you're talking about, goods, service, and products. If you talk about the fact, if you're a service provider that has to go in home, you may have to spin up a whole nother page that talks about the precautions you take when you go in someone's home, that you wear masks, you wear gloves, that, all of our employees make, are temperature checked at the beginning of every shift, or whatever you decide precautions are right for your business. I mean, really think about being extremely literal, because I also think we're kind of in a stage a little bit where it's a little awkward. I'm not sure these are the questions that, when someone calls you, they're going to say, oh, can you rattle off the 10 things you're doing to make your technician safe? It's kind of a weirdness right now.
Yeah.
They're going to want to read it, right? They're not going to want to engage in a dialogue and a conversation and an interview with you. Right. They want to know that before they get on the phone with you even. So I would say, err on the side of too much rather than too little right now. You can always wean it back if you feel like it's crowded or it's confusing. But as you're mapping out those client touch points, I mean, just tell people what you're doing, and it'll make them feel better about doing business with you.
Awesome. Thank you. And kind of on a similar note, another question was, how in depth really with customer connectivity do you need to go? I mean, a couple slides back in your circle, it was very in depth, like we need to hit so many of these touch points. But I mean, how in depth does a business need to go when they're trying to deal with so many other things on their plate right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, this is an area where, we often have an enlightening moment. Here's the deal. Your customers go through all those touch points, whether you want to admit it or not. That's the reality, right? So, if you don't want to think about them all as individual things, that's fine, but they're happening either way. So the question is, they're going to your website, they are interacting with you. There's millions of text messages that go unanswered because people try to text a business on their number found on Google, but it's not text enabled because people are preferring to do text messaging, right? So again, just because you don't think it's happening or you haven't been getting those texts doesn't mean it isn't. And so I would encourage people to really be more aggressive in kind of mapping it out. And listen, grab a beer, grab a glass of wine, sit down on a weekend, and map it out. Give it to your significant other. Talk about it with your employees. Did I miss anything? Really kind of think that through, because I think it will help you long term. I mean, it may seem like it's a little bit of a kind of a time investment now, but I guarantee you it will pay you dividends because you'll feel like you have a plan and you can go with very good clarity, execute against what needs to get better and improved.
Yeah. And I think also that your employees would be very willing to help out with some of those tasks that need to get done, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, listen, the people who, talk with our small business owners every single day are much more intimate with the individual nuance of how the interactions are going and how Zoom's working and how it's not working. I mean, even at any level in the organization, get as close to the customer as you possibly can in your business to get as much feedback as you can about those interactions and how you can, be creative and improve the overall experience.
Okay, great. Thank you. So another one for you, Ryan, is specifically about Thrive. I mean, you can help a business accomplish all of these things. Say a business is kind of short on cash flow, but they really want to do all this. How much is the Thrive platform and how can they get involved? Are there different levels, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have 3 different levels of Thrive. So, we have something basically for every kind of business and every kind of budget. We generally work with people, understand what their needs are. Yeah, we have some programs right now to kind of ease the burden in the short term, so that it's maybe not as much cash right now up front for people to quickly adapt and move into this solution. But, when you think about a solution, we spend a lot more time with businesses understanding what they're trying to accomplish. And we're the first ones to say, listen, Thrive isn't the right solution potentially for what you're trying to accomplish. We don't want to push our software if it's not going to really achieve your goals and objectives. So really sitting down and coming up with that plan, understanding your client touch points, that's generally what our sales call is. I mean, our demonstration is this interview that says, okay, well, tell me a little bit about your customers and how you interact with them today. And then we're using, our size and kind of economies of scale to scope out, how you would do it using Thrive and how it would help you in a kind of contactless post-COVID kind of experience. So lots of packages, that fit people, pretty, affordable for all the value you're getting. I mean, is it $19? No, but it's significantly cheaper than, let's say a Salesforce.com or a HubSpot. I mean, we are built to support small business America. So, we're priced fairly and accordingly like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. I've got one for Mike and Colton on the SEO side. So a business, they've updated their COVID info on their listings, they say they're doing takeout or whatever. Do they also need to update all of that on their website, or will it hurt their SEO if they're updating things like this constantly?
I'll give my feedback and then I think Mike can tack onto it. If this time has changed your services or changed anything about what you're doing, I think, the clean example, right, of how are we adapting? We're using masks, we're sanitizing things like that. If you're doing those things, absolutely add them to your content. If it really hasn't changed a whole lot, there may not be a full need to go out and actually change all that text. But I would say that if you have adapted your business, then absolutely go ahead and add that content. If nothing else, it's adding a little bit of extra content, a little bit of extra keywords in there. If anything, it may potentially help your rankings. The only thing that typically is going to be detrimental or kind of cause issues is if you're kind of detracting from the page or removing things. So as long as you're adding to it, you're fairly safe.
Yeah, and when I'm thinking, if I understand the question correctly, they're looking at their contact us page and they don't want to modify that page too much. Because they feel like the organic traffic or the SEO benefit that they're getting from that specific page it would be affected because they're changing that. And yeah, like Colton said, if you're detracting from that page, there is the possibility of detriment, but for the most part, that page and those listings and that kind of information, you want to have the most updated information. and that's going to help you and your customers, and just be transparent and be aware. And so it's going to help for the most part. So just make sure that you're as forward thinking and as front with your clients as you possibly can, and that's going to help your SEO.
Great. Thanks, guys. Amanda, that's all I have for questions. So back to you.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Make sure to tune in next time. We have an amazing show week after next on Wednesday, May 20th at 11 a.m. MST. We're going to have Jeff Tomlin, the CMO of Vendasta, on to talk to you about how you can protect local, evolving your business for today and tomorrow. Vendasta is going to present some really exciting data that they've done through a bunch of research on how the digital landscape is changing specifically for local businesses worldwide and what you need to know. It's going to be fantastic. So if you guys are interested in joining our next one, you can RSVP at all times at boostability.com/search-sessions. If you need help with your SEO, we are always here to help you, whether you are a small business yourself, or if you are more of a partner style business or an agency and you manage other people's businesses, we are here to help you. You can visit us at boostability.com or call the number on the screen. Again, thank you so much. Huge thanks to Ryan, our amazing presenter today. We're just thrilled to have you on. And thank you to Colton and Mike and Christine for another great show. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.